In the glittering yet treacherous arena of daytime television, where opinions fly faster than the host's witty one-liners, the Loose Women studio transformed into a battlefield on that fateful November afternoon in 2025. Rowan Atkinson, the enigmatic maestro of mirth whose silent slapstick has enchanted generations, stepped onto the set with the unassuming grace of a man who prefers shadows to spotlights. At 60, with lines etched like footnotes to a lifetime of laughter, he embodied the quiet rebellion against oversharing that defines his craft. The panel, a formidable quartet of voices including the indomitable Denise Welch, welcomed him with applause that masked the undercurrent of anticipation. Welch, 56 and battle-hardened from years of bearing her soul on screens big and small, sat front and center, her eyes sharp as a Geordie winter wind. The segment's theme, the mask of masculinity, when do men drop the act, promised to delve into emotional armors, but no one foresaw the shrapnel. Atkinson, promoting his latest venture, a poignant Netflix special blending Bean-esque antics with poignant reflections on a Jenga, began with a disarming anecdote about his reluctance to emote beyond pratfalls. Laughter rippled through the audience, a sea of nodding heads in the ITV studio's tiered seats. Welch leaned in, her signature empathy on display, recounting her own odyssey through manic highs and depressive lows, crediting candor for her survival. "Rowan, love, your silence is golden, but sometimes it's just a gilded cage," she ventured, her tone a velvet glove over an iron fist. The room hummed with agreement, but Atkinson's reply, delivered with the precision of a scalpel, sliced the air. "And your openness, Denise? Is it liberation or merely another performance for the applause?" The words landed softly, yet they detonated inwardly, igniting a fuse neither could have anticipated. Viewers at home, sipping tea in suburban living rooms, paused mid-sip, sensing the pivot from pleasantries to peril. This was the genesis, the innocuous query that bloomed into bedlam, forever altering the trajectory of two careers intertwined by circumstance. As the camera lingered on their faces, his a fortress of forbearance, hers a tempest of tenacity, the stage was set for a spectacle that would eclipse the show's 30-year legacy, drawing millions into the fray of fame's fragile fault lines. Social media, ever the vigilant vulture, began its feast, hashtags hatching like fireflies in the digital dusk. Yet beneath the brewing storm lay layers of lore. Atkinson's cloistered existence in rural England, far from paparazzi prowls, contrasted sharply with Welch's warrior ethos, forged in the fires of public scrutiny and personal tempests. Their worlds, one of whimsical withdrawal, the other of vociferous validation, were on a collision course, hurtling toward an implosion that would echo through entertainment annals. The escalation unfolded with the inexorable grace of a tragedy in 3 acts, each line delivered with the gravitas of Shakespearean sparring partners. Denise Welch, undaunted by the barb, parried with the fervor of a feminist firebrand who stared down tabloid trolls and triumphed. "Performance? Darling, this is my pulse, raw and relevant, unlike the puppet strings you pull for punchlines," she retorted, her voice rising like a crescendo in a West End musical, laced with the authentic ache of lived experience. The audience, a microcosm of Middle England from pensioners to young mums, gasped in unison, their collective inhale of vacuum sucking the levity from the room. Atkinson's eyes, those deep wells of wry wisdom, narrowed fractionally, a telltale twitch betraying the turmoil beneath his urbane veneer. He, who had mastered the art of evasion through exaggerated expressions in his iconic roles, now faced a foe who wielded words as weapons, unyielding and unapologetic. Pulse or publicity stunt? The line blurs when cameras crave confession, he countered, his Oxford-inflected timbre steady as a metronome, yet threaded with an undercurrent of umbrage that hinted at deeper grievances, or perhaps the relentless rumors about his private pains, from marital fractures to paternal distances. The panel erupted in a flurry of facilitation. Solomon, with her Essex effervescence, quipped about her own Instagram indiscretions to diffuse, while Sawalha invoked sisterhood solidarity, urging, "Let's not let lad's logic derail our ladies' lunch." But the momentum was merciless, propelling the pair past politeness into the realm of recrimination. Welch, drawing from her arsenal of advocacy memoirs like The Unwelcome Visitor that chronicled her bipolar battle, suppressed further, hiding behind humor hurts more than helps, Rowan. Men like you set the bar too high for silence. The studio lights seemed to intensify, casting long shadows that mirrored the lengthening rift, as producers and the glass-top gallery gestured wildly, their faces a pantomime of panic. Off-air whispers would later reveal contingency plans for abrupt endings, but on air, the die was cast. This verbal volley, vivid and visceral, vivisected the veneer of celebrity civility, exposing the existential exegesis that underpin public personas. Fans flooded feeds with fervor, some siding with Welch's warrior womanhood, others championing Atkinson's aristocratic aloofness. Clips cascaded across platforms of Twitter threads threading theories, TikTok edits timing the tension to trending tracks, transforming a 10-minute tussle into a 24-hour tempest. In the eye of this emoji-stormed cyclone, the two titans teetered, their exchange an exquisite exemplar of how hearth and home talk can hemorrhage into high-stakes havoc, reminding us that even in the saccharine sanctuary of soapbox sofas, sincerity can summon savagery. With the subtlety of a sledgehammer swing, the altercation alchemized from intellectual joust to jugular assault, each salvo stripping away the scrim of showbiz sheen. Rowan Atkinson, rarely ruffled in his repertoire of reserved roles, rose incrementally in his seat, his posture a paragon of poised protest. "Denise, your candor is commendable, but compulsion cloaked as camaraderie? That's the cruelest con," he avowed, his articulation as acute as an assassin's arrow, piercing the pretense with precision honed from decades of deadpan delivery. Welch's retort was a riposte of righteous rage, her hands gesturing like a conductor commanding chaos. "Compulsion? This is compassion, you cryptic clown, and unmask or be unmade." The exclamation exploded, eliciting an ovation from the outspoken segment of spectators, their cheers a clarion call clashing with the consternation of conservative corners. The divide was Darwinian in its display of divergent dispositions, Welch's waveform of wave as a highs of hilarity, lows of lament versus Atkinson's archipelago of isolation, islands of irony adrift in an ocean of obligation. Backstage buzz burgeoned, assistants attuned to the tumult texting terse updates to top-tier talent agents, while the director, a veteran of vicissitudes, signaled for steadfast streaming despite the seismic shifts. Suddenly, Solomon's soliloquy on social media's soul-sucking spotlight sought to salve, but it was superfluous. The spotlight had shifted squarely to the showdown. Atkinson's alliance with anonymity, articulated in arcane interviews where he abhorred autograph hounds and adulation alike, armored him against the onslaught, yet cracks crept in as Welch wielded her weaponized womanhood. "You've got Ben in your bonnet, but what about the boy behind the booty? Share or spare us the shtick," she snarled, her snarl softened only by the sincerity shimmering in her stare. The room recoiled, a ripple of recoil radiating from row to row, as if the very ether echoed with the essence of exposed egos. This was no nominal spat, it was a narrative nexus, narrating the neuroses of notoriety in neon-bright detail. Digital denizens dissected it diligently, podcasters pontificating on patriarchal pushback, bloggers branding Welch a bully or beacon, forums fomenting feuds with fan-fiction flair. In this inferno of invective, the incident illuminated the interstitial spaces between introversion and exhibitionism, where icons intersect and ignite. As acrimony accrued, the audience's allegiance oscillated, an odyssey of opinion oscillating between outrage and ovation. Ultimately, this paragraph of pandemonium portrayed the peril of probing too profoundly, a parable for performers perpetually poised on performance's precipice, where one wrong word can wrench the world from whimsy to wrath. The crescendo crashed like cymbals in a cacophony, culminating in a climax that catapulted the controversy into cataclysmic proportions. Denise Welch, her demeanor a detail of defiance and distress, delivered a diatribe that dripped with the droplets of decades-long dedication to demystifying mental mazes. "Rowan, your reticence isn't refinement, it's rejection of the rela, robbing us of the richness your reticence withholds," she thundered, thunderous in her timbre, tears teasing the tips of her lashes like dew on daffodils. The panel's periphery paled, their interventions impotent islands in a sea of surging sentiment. Atkinson, affronted yet anchored, articulated an apologia that was anything but apologetic. "Robbing? Nay, respecting the realm of the private, where pain isn't paraded for profit." His riposte resonated, a requiem for restraint in an era of egregious exposure, evoking empathy from the empathetic enclave of elders in the crowd. Chaos reigned, A rambunctious riot of reactions rippling radially, some spectators standing in solidarity, others sinking into seats with second-hand shame. Producers, perspiring profusely in their panoramic perch, pondered pulling the plug, but the pulse of the people pounding with primal fascination prevailed. Off-mic murmurs multiplied, makeup artists murmuring about mediation, while wardrobe whispers warned of wardrobe malfunctions in the melee. This maelstrom mirrored the media's machinations, where manufactured moments manufacture megastars, but at what mortal cost? Welch's worldview, woven from warps of warrior wisdom and wefts of wounded wonder, warred with Atkinson's ascetic aesthetic, a asceticism admired by aesthetes who abjure the allure of all-access allures. Profit? This is purpose, you posh purist, pushing past pretense to the person. She parried, her passion a palpable plasma pulsing through the partition. The exchange, exquisite in its excess, exemplified entertainment's eternal entanglement with authenticity's allure and agony. Hashtags hemorrhaged across horizons. #loose women lash out, #bin burst, billions of bytes besieging bandwidths with banter and bile. Celebrities chimed in cascades as a Dawn French decrying the drama as deliciously daft, Ricky Gervais falling at the genius of Grumpy. In this vortex of vitriol, the victors were vague victory veiled in the veneer of validation for both belligerents. As the argument attenuated, approaching an armistice that never quite arrived, it accentuated the absurdities of varying animosities, an admonition against the allure of live-wire looseness. Post-clash, the cosmos of consequences constellated swiftly, a stellar storm scattering shards across screens and society. Rowan Atkinson, retreating to his rural redoubt with the rapidity of a receding rabbit, reflected in rare repose, his reticence redoubled yet ruminative. Agents assailed by anxious alerts advised absolution, but Atkinson, authoring an anonymous affidavit of appreciation and admirable audacity, Denise awakened the actor and the ascetical leaked to tabloids, tempering the tempest. Welch, weathering waves of well-wishers and witch-hunters, wept privately before weaponizing the wound on her Wednesday webinar, waxing wise, it was war of words, not worth we women win when we withstand. The show's stewards, stunned by surging stats of viewership vaulting 300%, viral videos vaulting virality, have vindicated the volatility, vending vignettes as unforgettable unscripted. Backlash burgeoned from both barbs. Atkinson's admirers assailed Welch as woke warrior gone wild, while her horde hailed him hidebound hypocrite. This bifurcation bespoke broader battle as a boomer bastions versus millennial manifestos, privacy proponents pitted against publicity proponents. In interviews interred in ivory towers, Atkinson articulated the aftermath's artistry. Adversity amplifies art. This altercation adds authenticity to my autobiography of awkwardness. Welch, weaving workshops on workplace wellness, wove the woe into wisdom, warning of when candor crosses into cruelty. Digital detritus accumulated, deepfakes dramatizing the duel, documentaries dawning on the debacle, discourses dissecting the dynamics of discourse. Sponsors surged, scandal selling seats, but scars surfaced subtly. Atkinson's aversion to appearances accentuated, Welch's wariness of white male with waning. Yet from the fracas flowered unforeseen fruits, a foundation for famous folks fostering frankness, funded by fans' fervor. Atkinson's award-winning adaptation of The Reluctant Icon, riffing on the Roe Welch's bestseller Unleashed, Lessons from Loose Lips. This phoenix-like flourishing from fracas's flames fascinated, a fable of fortitude and fame's forge. As autumnal aftershocks abated, alliances reformita apologies aired in afterglow episodes, applause applauding the audacity. The incident, indelible in its intensity, inscribed itself into infamy's index, illuminating how hostilities innote entertainment harvest harmony from havoc, humanizing heroes who heretofore hid behind halos of hilarity or heraldry of honesty. In retrospect, the rift was a revelation, a rhapsody of resilience revealing that even in ego's empire, empathy endures, emerging from members to enlighten eras.